Nowadays, we have millions of black people that walk around insisting that they're woke, when in reality, many that are declaring themselves as being woke are the most mentally enslaved ones among us. The truly awakened does not self identify by the N word. The truly awakened does not worship the false God of our ungodly enslavers. The truly awakened does not get their morals from a religious book written by our most immoral enemies. And the truly awakened never speaks negatively about our racial group, because the truly awakened knows that our people's narratives, statistics, history, and even our media images, everything that shapes our perceptions of our people, are controlled exclusively by white oppressive forces. The truly awakened has not forgotten that the white society has never earned our blind trust, nor have they ever earned the credibility to control what we believe about our people, about ourselves. They, in fact, possess the least credibility to do so. They've been telling negative lies about us for 500 years. Furthermore, they now control us by keeping us believing the fraudulent, worst possible narratives about ourselves. Because when we're kept demoralized, divided, and self-loathing, we are much more easier to control. Those black people that are insisting that they confirm their negative assessments about our racial group based upon their own individual experiences are in fact delusional, because it's not humanly possible to accurately assess the collective state of millions of people based upon anyone's individual experiences. It's not humanly possible. Those negative perceptions about our racial group were actually deliberately embedded into our collective minds through the white society's monopoly over the contents that we receive, which allowed them to control what we believe. There are 4 ways to effectively brainwash an entire generation of people: by what they're taught, by what they see, by what they hear, and through repetition. Because the white society controls the education that we're taught, the media images that we see, and the narratives that we repetitively hear, these combined factors allows them to brainwash millions of black people to think in ways that serves the white society. The white oppressors' monopoly over the contents that are fed into our collective minds provides them with their greatest power over us. They've exploited this immense power to demoralize us, to divide us, and to shift black collective aggressions away from the white society and redirected it against ourselves. It's the true reason why many black people now perceives ourselves as being our own worst enemies and reveres and defends the white society in spite of such a brutally horrific history and reality of the contrary. If you don't believe that the white society would exploit their monopoly over the contents that we receive to shape our collective minds in ways that garners outcomes amongst us that benefits themselves, you are extremely naive. To now do so is totally consistent with the type of people they've always demonstrated themselves to have been throughout history. It's totally consistent. It is a reality many of us have been brainwashed not to see. Furthermore, it's always by deliberate design whenever the oppressed population starts thinking exactly as the oppressors wants them to think. Whenever this happens, it's always because the oppressed have been socialized to do so. Socialized is when the dominant population exploits their monopoly over the contents that are fed into the collective minds of the oppressed population by constantly feeding fraudulent propaganda into the minds of the oppressed that manipulates the oppressed to think and behave in ways that are beneficial to the dominant oppressive society. White social scientists describe this nefarious practice as merely instilling a value system into the collective minds of the oppressed population that makes the oppressed adhere to the authority and existing infrastructure of the dominant culture. It's how oppressors prevents the oppressed from engaging in acts of massive unified retribution against their oppressors. This is what has been done to us. The white society has socialized black people. This is all possible because regardless of how intelligent people are, if it's possible to control the input of contents that people receive, it's entirely possible to control what they will believe and even how they will behave. Sadly, to our own detriment, they fooled many of us to believe that our collective mindset is caused by a silly slave syndrome myth. That silly myth is being used to distract us from learning this disclosed truth, because they know that as long as they keep our understandings of our plight and condition flawed, then all of our liberating remedies and strategies that stems from our flawed understandings will also be flawed. This is why it keeps believing the Willie Lynch myth. That's correct. Believing in the Willie Lynch myth actually keeps us mentally enslaved because it distracts us from learning the truth of our plight and condition that are required in order to develop the proper counter strategies that are actually necessary in order to liberate ourselves. This is why I refuse to be silent in the face of ignorance, because it's that ignorance that now hinders our liberation. This is why those of us who know the truth must teach African proverb. It's not the Willie Lynch myth, nor has it ever been the Willie Lynch myth, that keeps millions of black people mentally enslaved. It's actually the white society's monopoly over the information, over the media and media contents that are fed into our minds. In 1968, white oppressive forces determined that by perpetually negatively distorting virtually everything that black people believes about ourselves collectively, they could make us much more easier to control and subjugate. It was how they ended they neutralized the black power movement. You see, people are easily controlled by the information that they receive about themselves, especially when they're unaware that the information has been distorted to invoke specific responses from them. When people are constantly fed positive, affirming information about themselves, this has a positive impact upon them. This raises their collective self-esteem and unifies them. And it doesn't matter that the information presented is untrue. Most people will act accordingly to the information because they've all been given the same information about themselves. Now, however, when people are constantly subjected to receiving only the fraudulent, worse negative narratives about themselves, they become the exact opposite happen. When people are constantly subjected to receiving only negative information about themselves, they become demoralized, they become divided, they become self-loathing, and they become more compliant with the oppressor's dominance over their lives. In fact, many will even prefer it. It also creates self-hatred and disunity, which attacks the core foundation of what bonds the people. And those people can then be ruled over forever. And again, it doesn't matter that the information presented is untrue. Most people will respond accordingly to the information because they've all been given the same disinformation about themselves. This is how the white society now controls black people. This demoralizing example is precisely what white oppressive forces are doing to the black population as a means of controlling us. The white media's unrelenting negative depiction of black people that amplifies the negative to the point that it distorts our reality is much more than just biased media reporting. It is actually an insidious, black racially demoralizing, divide and rule psychological warfare campaign that's being deployed against us unrelentingly. Demoralize, divide, and rule is the method of maintaining control over a targeted population through constant and unrelenting demoralization in order to create self-hatred and division between them. Keeping us believing the fraudulent worse narratives about ourselves is how our white oppressive forces now prevents us from unifying ourselves against the white oppressive society. This system is deployed like a massive media marketing campaign that constantly subjects the black population to receiving only the fraudulent worse narratives about ourselves. The white society writes all black narratives. They control all black mainstream media image. They control all of our statistics. They therefore literally owns black people's interpretation of our collective state. Therefore, this allows them to negatively control how we feel about ourselves. Within this system, fraudulent black racially demoralizing propaganda is being pumped unrelentingly into the unsuspecting minds of the black population without being challenged nor counterbalanced by an equal amount of black positive racially affirming information. It conveys the subliminal message that black people are now our own worst enemies and that we therefore need whites to govern over our lives. Moreover, that black people should admire, respect, and trust only whites. This system is extremely effective because when black people are repetitively presented these noted narratives from trusted white media sources, it can be very difficult to resist its implied propaganda programming, especially when the propaganda is being told daily and so unrelentingly. It's very effective. Its weapon is the demoralizing message that it carries and the way that it adversely affects the black population in terms of our behaviors, our unities, our perceptions. With time, being unable to refute the constant negative demoralizing disinformation about us, many black people eventually comes to accept them and we internalize them. Many black people then experience profound feelings of humiliation and we ask ourselves, damn, why we can't get our act together? Damn. This unrelenting humiliation then causes many black people to feel resentful towards our people. We become demoralized, divided, self-loathing, and profoundly resentful towards our own people. In the most extreme cases, many black people will even attempt to disassociate themselves from other black people. Psychologists call this disassociation. It's a defense mechanism that evolves to put a distance between ourselves and from the pain. Some black people will make it their personal mission to go out of their way to try to show white people that we're not all bad. This is the truth of our plight and condition of what's being done to us. This nefarious psychological warfare system works by tapping into the immense power that shame has upon the human mind to mentally enslave millions of black people. And those black people who do not critically think never notices their mental change. Its weapon is the negative message and the way that it negatively affects the black population. It is the reason why black people walk around constantly making negative generalization about ourselves. It's a process with the objective to erode the morals of the black population through continuous demoralization. By destroying our morale, it can even prevent our will to fight. It's very effective. No group can be constantly inundated with fraudulent, negative, demoralizing narratives about themselves and not suffer some adverse effect. This programming is all possible because people are like computers. All you have to do is keep giving people certain information and every so often, and you can persuade and steer an entire generation towards an applied objective. The white society exploits its monopoly to brainwash black people to speak negatively of ourselves and to revere whites. Those black people that are insisting they confirm their negative assessment about our racial group, again, are delusional. Because it's not possible. It's not humanly possible to do so. Now, there's a social science why many black people think that they have. Because once a false belief has been successfully embedded into the human mind, the individual will then only notice those incidents that appear to confirm the negative programming and will become psychologically blinded from noticing the the many evidence refuting it. Then, based upon this psychological blindness, they will insist that they've seen it for themselves, that their false embedded belief is true, although it's in fact not. This is the truth. They've been studying the mind, and they've used that gained knowledge to create a prison for our minds. Those of us who are telling you the truth are trying to free you from a mental prison that most black people don't know we're trapped within. And the programming is so strong that many black people fight against those of us who are trying to free their minds. This inherent flaw within the psyche has allowed the white society to trap the minds of black people within a perpetual state of self-contempt. It is the truth of our plight and condition. One love and peace.